I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a big fan of putting in widespread legislation on the backs of really just suspect numbers and polling data, because that's what's going to be happening up here in Canada. Trudeau minister, that self-haircut enthusiast that you see right there in the middle of your screen, says online hate speech legislation. Oh, online hate legislation coming very soon. I don't want to miscategorize what he's saying. Hate speech has no place in our society. It's time to step up against online hate. The numbers are disturbing. Oh, trust me, they're disturbing, but not for the reasons that you think they are. They're just bad polling. It's bad polling, and this is what they're going on. Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault, another fucking Frenchman, said today that online hate legislation would be coming very soon. Yay. Also citing two polls. One show that 93% of Canadians believe that online hate speech and racism are a problem. And another showing that 80% of Canadians want companies to be required to remove racist or hateful content within 24 hours. Yeah, I looked into who was doing these polls, and we got the poll up itself, but let's finish what Moron had to say. Today in Parliament, Guilbeault said, conclusions of this survey are clear. Oh, no, they aren't. Hate speech has no place in our society, your society, and you can keep it. It's time to step up against online hate. The numbers are disturbing, but they come as no surprise. Of course, because you just hired a firm that would go ahead and produce the numbers that you wanted. He continued, almost half of Canadians either have experienced or seen violent and hateful content online. Keep that in mind. Seen violent or hateful content. Canadians want to act, not really. And that's exactly why we intend to introduce legislation. Great. Our approach will require online platforms to eliminate illegal content. Cool. Let's just end it there. And end a press conference. No more remarks needed, such as hate speech. Oh, fuck. Terrorist or violent extremism. Isn't terrorism illegal already? So is that kind of redundant, or are you just trying to reframe what a terrorist is? Interesting. And violent extremism. Again, if something's violent, isn't that immediately illegal? But if you're just talking about the context of Twitter and words aren't violence for normal people, but this is the Liberal government we're talking about. Child pornography. Oh, it's funny. And not child pornography, but you'll see in the second half. And the non-consensual sharing of illegitimate images online. What the fuck does that mean? Does that mean revenge porn? Yeah, that's already illegal and against most terms of service. Most. Which are becoming much more far-reaching and applicable to the current state of the law than a constitution or Bill of Rights. Guilbeault has recently said that the department is working on legislation that would move the burden of being able to take down a video from an individual who's victim of this to the companies. What the fuck does that even mean? It's just as opaque as the pollsters' methodologies and the pollsters themselves. So, who conducted these polls? Well, it was the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Okay, you think that they have a vested interest in producing numbers that would go ahead and affirm their need for existence? Like, when your name has race relations in the title, you need to have a countervailing force in order to justify your existence. Now, I tried to do a little bit of background information. It's like, okay, they took random sample of 2,000 people, and they're centered in Ontario. Listen, you're taking 2,000 random people from Ontario and you're centered in Toronto. If you're trying to get a wide idea of the ideologies that are across Canada when it comes to political spectrum, you aren't going to find anybody who's right of Mao in Toronto. It's literally impossible to find. Yeah, they have a whole bunch of background here, and like I said earlier, 93% of people think that hate speech is the problem. We're going to get into the actual numbers because this tells you absolutely nothing, but I'll link to this page below if you would like to, reach out to the Abacus Center or to Canadian Race Relations Foundation, because if you're a Canadian, your tax money gets to go towards this. But Abacus data is, I couldn't find any information on them, so I don't know how They say that they are one of the most accurate pollsters conducting research during the 2019 Canadian election. Ooh, they say that. That's good. So I'm sure that they're going to be used again in the 2021 snap election. That's certainly going to be called shortly after the Canadian government pushes through Bill C-19 and this hate speech legislation, which is going to look like dog shit. But we got, yes, the results and some of the methodology behind the polls that old Steve Gaslight decided to cite in order to push through his fucking stupid hate speech laws. We don't even know what they are, but we have a good idea what they are going to be based on, the liberal government. So here's all the methodology they give you. They don't tell you where they sampled these people from, if they were from across Canada, if they were all from the GTA area, which is red as a motherfucker. And red as in like Soviet anthem, not like Republican. That's how it is for the rest of the world, and was for Americans prior to 1980, I think. Yeah, when they had to flip the colors. So, they were tired of being labeled, the Democrats were tired of being labeled as communists, and really just wanted the media to portray them as blue up on the screen. So that's how that works. The survey was conducted with 2,000 Canadian residents from January 15th to 18th. Okay, at the height of all of the hysteria from Capitol Hill. So gives you a little idea of what the fuck is leaking in. And if you think that that doesn't have any bearing on what happens in these Canadian polls, literally our evening news, all of our outlets, all of our radio broadcasts is just basically parroting American news points. And here's Sheila with the hockey report. That's pretty much top and bottom of the hour radio broadcasts and local and national news. A random sample of panelists were invited to complete the survey from a set of partner panels based in the Lucid Exchange program. The Lucid Exchange platform. These partners are typically double opt-in survey panels blended to manage out potential skews in the data from a single source. We don't know what that means. If they were invited to complete the survey at a location, that means that they would have been close to the center, the Abacus Center itself, or if it was online, we don't know. And they don't tell us anything other than the data was weighted according to census data to ensure that a sample matched Canada's population according to age, gender, educational attainment, and region. Sample matched. It didn't say that they went out there and got anybody from a different region. They just said that, it matches. It matches. Totals may not add up to 100 due to rounding. Yeah, that's the general methodology. So here are the key findings. And then we'll go through the actual numbers, and they tell a different story. 78% of Canadians are concerned about the spread of hate speech online. Another 74% are concerned about the rise of right-wing extremism and terrorism, and 72% about growing political polarization. Those are a bunch of big, scary numbers. The survey finds wide national support for several ideas that could help prevent the spread of online hate speech. 80% support requiring social media companies to remove racist or hateful content within 24 hours of it being identified by trusted third-party organizations. Terrific. And the government decided that a good third-party organization would be the government. 79% support requiring social media companies to inform police of serious hate speech, so they can apprehend a potential attacker before they turn to violence. How often has that actually happened, okay? You say something, I don't even know what they would define as hate speech. You just say that some bitch's hair is goofy, and then all of a sudden your fucking door gets knocked in and the SWAT team rolls through because, you could have just acted on that because misogyny and sexism. 79% support strengthening laws to hold perpetrators accountable for what they say, share, or do online. Holy fuck. 78% support requiring social media companies to remove users who have shared racist or hateful content on their platforms. Yay. This sucks. 60% of Canadians believe the federal government should do more to prevent the spread of hateful and racist behavior online. Again, what do any of these terms mean? And you can always take them to mean the least charitable interpretation of hateful, racist, misogynistic, extremist rhetoric that you possibly can think of. Only 17% do not believe so, and 23% are unsure. Almost all Canadians believe that online hateful and racist content and behavior is a problem in Canada, including 49% who consider it a big problem. Just a bunch of scared motherfuckers. Now it's time to run through the actual data itself, okay? These seem like a bunch of scary numbers, like all Canadians are actually on board with this. Highly fucking unlikely. Now we're going to go through the actual experienced or seen online. Insert your comment here. Okay. Offensive name calling. 10% of people have experienced it. Racist comments, sexist comments, 7 or 9%. Comments or content inciting violence, 6%. Homophobic comments, 6%. Physical threats, 6. Sexual harassment, 6. Isn't that a little bit telling in and of itself? This is an aggregate. There are slides for everything else, and if you guys want to take a look through this abortion of a study, feel free, by all means. I read through all of it before I pressed record because I was just enthralled by how ridiculous this totally is. But as you can see, it tops out at offensive name calling at 10%. People have experienced this. 20 people out of the 2,000 that they poll have experienced this, okay? And then you take a look at, but I've seen it at 40% clip for offensive name calling, all the way down to 24% for sexual harassment, because as you go down the line, okay, what's offensive name calling? Racist, sexist comments, citing violence, homophobic, physical threats, and then sexual harassment has a pretty, relative to everything else that's up there, has a relatively good, defined, and chargeable definition. As much as I think as most of that is overblown, but the more opaque your definitions start out at, and then the more defined that they go, the lower that people have seen it gets. And then you take a look, okay, basically half of people have never seen offensive name calling online. More than half, all the way up to 70%, have never seen sexual harassment. Those are the real numbers, okay? Those are what people who have seen this stuff, people who use this stuff all the time, like I'll swing back up here, okay? Yeah, to my shock, 7 out of 10 people use Google every day, and then up to 93% of people use Google every week. I think that would be over 100%, really, to be completely honest, because most of the search engines, and if you just hop on fucking line, you just press start on your fucking phone and you're going to be using a search engine of some kind. So just because they have Google, it's like, oh no, I use DuckDuckGo. They wouldn't fucking pick anybody like that. They're probably just one of these soy pods that they picked at random to represent a far rightist. And meanwhile, all of this stuff is in response to the Parler, the extremists out there. Up to 7% of people polled use it per week. And that's supposed to be representative of all of Canada. Only 1% more popular than Tumblr, because this is still 2011. But we just looked at all of those numbers here, okay? And then we got this slide here in the middle. Is online hate and racism a problem? Well, based on the numbers, over half of people have never seen it, and less than 2 out of 10 people have experienced it. But yeah, half of people think that it's a big problem. Are you fucking retarded? This just goes to show the rest of these numbers are exactly the same, okay? We just slide through this stuff. Okay. Amount of hateful or racist comments and content online. Increasing a lot or increasing a little, 58%. Nearly 60% of people, an overwhelming majority of people, think that comments are getting worse online. They just haven't seen it or experienced it. And the fact that they just keep seeing racism, sexism, violence online all the time at a disproportionate rate than they're actually experiencing it, it just goes to show you that either Canadians are hyper paranoid about things, which I can't discredit because out east is a weird fucking place. It's just not representative of what's going on. And it speaks to a bigger problem, especially with what this fucking old cut enthusiast wants to do. He's looking out for everybody else instead of looking at the actual numbers. This is the problem with people who identify as liberal, okay? Somebody who would take a personality test and would have a preponderance to want to take care of an entire community, would have a much stronger maternal instinct than everybody else. These are the type of people that are governing us right now. They look at the entire group of people instead of the actual people that are there. Painting everybody with one broad stroke, with one color, and telling you what you should be thinking. And I fucking hate it, okay? And this is all we have. And I described it, I think, a couple days ago when I said that there's no hope for Canada because our right-wing party is not going to do anything about it. It's not like they can do it with the current coalition, which is a de facto majority. And then once Justin Trudeau does whatever the fuck he wants with the supermajority, once he pushes through Bill C-19, you just know it's fucking done. So they're just going to take the fun out of the internet up here, okay? Because it's these people that keep seeing problems everywhere. This postmodernist view of the world that you can interpret anything how you want it to. And you can turn a joke into a factual statement and then have somebody fucking yeet it offline. And it's not even stopping online anymore. Banks, payment processors, people are losing their jobs. Like, where does it stop? Where does it stop? I think we all know where it stops. Certain camps that people are wanting to start up. But if the government's going to start holding people accountable and holding these companies accountable, maybe things like what's happening on Twitter aren't going to be around for much longer. Okay? Maybe this piece of legislation is going to be a two-way street, or maybe they're just going to block everybody out in Canada. Okay, you just have to run a VPN to be on any fucking social media outpost. It really doesn't matter, because this is something that probably creeps me out more than anything else. I don't know the proper way to say it, but whenever this is portrayed in any sort of media, this is the one that kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, I could, like, violence and murder, whatever, to been desensitized to that. I've watched those movies forever, but when it comes to human trafficking, sex trafficking, underage stuff, I don't know, man. That just really draws the line for me. And the fact that Twitter would leave up actual child porn. Yeah, it says child sex abuse, and we'll get into it here in a second because, well, to be fair, we got the lawsuit right here. It's a big motherfucker, but yeah, here's what Twitter's being charged with. Benefit from a sex trafficking venture in violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, violation of duty to report child sexual abuse material, receipt and distribution of child pornography, and California products liability, negligence, gross negligence, negligence per se, negligent infliction of emotional distress, distribution of private sexually explicit materials, intrusion into private affairs, invasion of privacy under the California Constitution. Yeah, it's a big boy piece of law in the lawsuit in general that, yeah, if you have the time to go through it and you have the stomach to go through it, by all means. But we got a little wrap up here, and I mostly agree with it. And I've heard some breakdowns on it too, and I pretty much agree with that. So I'll just throw in my 2 cents on this one because it's just disturbing. And the fact that they would shut down extremists and hate speech spewers for less than keeping up child porn. These companies aren't the ones that should be in charge of the public discourse, and nor should a government that wants to come in and censor unsavory language. Should just be left alone and remove factually illegal material. But let's, finish this up. A federal lawsuit was filed against social media giant Twitter on Wednesday on behalf of a teenager, who claims the company waited for days to remove sexually graphic videos of himself and another minor posted to a platform by sex traffickers. It literally could not get any worse than that. The lawsuit filed in the United States District Court of the Northern District of California is done so on the behalf of a minor who has identified in the legal filing as 16-year-old Florida resident. Withholding the child's real name, obviously, has been given the name John Doe because minors, obviously. Even the court has to look after a minor. They, protect their identity. But when you're on Twitter, you can just have it shared and circulated. Like, it can have 167,000 views and 2,000 retweets because Twitter, and I will say this with all seriousness, Twitter loves child pornography. Twitter loves child trafficking. They love sex trafficking. They benefit off of it. This is one instance of something that they have been propagating for a very, very, very long time. It is something that circles and is promoted on their website, and they have the balls to slander anyone with an opposing viewpoint. Meanwhile, they'll leave up child porn. According to the complaint, Doe was harmed by Twitter depicting his sexual abuse. The lawsuit accuses Twitter, which has over 300 million users, active users are quite a bit lower than that, but still, of refusing to remove child pornography videos depicting the minor's sexual abuse. When the company was notified by the plaintiff and his parents. Yes, they tried to get it taken down, and Twitter said that it was not a violation of their terms of service. I kid you not. Twitter will try to kid you, but I'm just giving you the facts. The lawsuit seeks to shine a light on how Twitter has enabled and profited from child sexual abuse material on its platform, choosing profits over people, money over the safety of children, and the wealth and the expense of human freedom and human dignity, the lawsuit reads. The filing states that John Doe was solicited and recruited for sex trafficking as a minor, but after Doe escaped from the manipulation, child sexual abuse videos that he was featured in were disseminated on Twitter. According to the NCOSE, Doe was horrified to find out that the video made when he was 13 under the duress of sex traffickers was posted on Twitter. His parents reportedly contacted authorities and Twitter to ask that the post be taken down immediately. Yeah, I don't think that Twitter should have a problem with that, but I already told you what the outcome of that was. NCOSE alleges that instead of removing the video content, Twitter reported back to the family that the material did not violate any of the company's policies. Yep. They have so many different policies that they can get rid of different accounts for, but they don't have one for removing child porn? Are you fucking kidding me? As a result, the video featuring Doe amassed 167,000 views and over 2,200 retweets before law enforcement involved pressured Twitter to remove the video in question. When Twitter was first alerted to the fact that John Doe's age, Twitter refused to remove the illegal material and instead continued to promote and profit for the sexual abuse of this child, the lawsuit argues. Although Doe lives in Florida, the lawsuit was filed in California because that is where Twitter is headquartered. Yes, exactly. And at least it's in Northern California. Now, okay, we know the importance of judge selection when it comes to certain lawsuits, especially when it comes to big tech lawsuits. Just look at that fucking relic up there in Washington that made arguments for Amazon based on things that they didn't even allege Parler did, just in order to bury Parler further. Like, oh, my Capitol Hill riot. Well, nobody planned anything on Parler, so what the fuck are we doing here? So once this lawsuit, which is a couple days old, and I've just been waiting to attach it to a different story because there's meat on this bone, but I don't want to cover it in a whole lot of detail because honestly, I'm not comfortable talking about this. I'll still follow this lawsuit because it's despicable and rotten and evil to its core. It's just talking about it in so much detail might get every channel deleted. And I'll say this, and this is going to be my last post on Twitter. This will be my final advertisement for a video on Twitter. I haven't posted on there for the better part of it. Trying to think back, I think it was last year was the last time that I used it. Definitely since Parler's been taken offline. To the detriment of my videos. You guys are not blind. You see the view counts and they're in the shitter. And I'm exploring different alternatives because as encouraging as some of the posts on the Parler pseudo feed are coming from the CEO and then the high-ranking people that were on the platform, as encouraging as those are, time's running out. And if I hope to grow this channel to be anything of influence and success, I'll have to be advertising on other platforms like Gab and Minds, perhaps. I just, have reservations about both. But Twitter's disgusting, and the people who are propping them up are, just as disgusting, because as much as these hate speech laws that fucking Heritage Minister up here in Canada wants to push through, it's not going to do anything except for silence critics, and that's why everything's so loosely defined, and they're using those vaguely worded polls in order to push through whatever they want. So at the end of this, Twitter, fuck the liberal government. Thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.